Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a fascinating journey into your provided material on tantric teachings, specifically looking at how they relate to sex and relationships. Our goal is really to pull out the most insightful, maybe the most practical nuggets for you.
Exactly. You've given us the Everything Tantric Sex book by Bobby Dempsey, and our mission, well, it's to go beyond just a summary, right? We want to distill the core ideas, maybe uh, clarify how things evolved from traditional to more modern approaches, and, offer you some perspectives you can use right away.
Think of this as your personal guide to understanding Tantra, maybe cutting through some of the complexity to get to what really matters for your intimate life.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at the fundamental philosophy, seeing how the focus has kind of shifted over time, and hopefully uncovering some concrete techniques you can actually apply.
So let's dive right in then. Traditional Tantra, what are its core beliefs? What really stands out from the reading?
Okay, so digging into this, a central idea, according to Dempsey anyway, is that everything in life is sacred.
Everything.
Yeah, not just some things, but everything, every living being, the entire universe. And the ultimate aim is, well, it's pretty ambitious, to experience heaven on earth.
Wow.
And even to recognize the divine within yourself, like seeing yourself as a kind of god or goddess.
That's fascinating. And the book emphasizes this wasn't like a casual thing, right? Traditional Tantra. It wasn't a weekend workshop.
No, definitely not.
It talks about years of dedicated study, with a guru, involving intricate rituals, specific practices. It's presented as a path of profound commitment.
Absolutely. Think of it less like a quick fix and more like a lifelong spiritual and physical education almost.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And a key concept in this traditional view is the inseparable unity of Shiva and Shakti. Can you break that down a bit? Why is that so important?
Certainly. So in Hindu symbolism, Shiva represents pure masculine consciousness. Think of it as the stillness, the potential, like the quiet observer within you. Okay. Shakti, then, is the dynamic feminine force of creation. The energy that moves, creates, manifests the physical world. Your passions, your emotions, that kind of thing.
Right.
The crucial insight here is their complete interdependence. They rely on each other. Neither can exist or function fully without the other. And their harmonious dance, well, that's what powers the universe and, by extension, our own inner and outer lives, including our relationships, of course.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, I thought. The book draws a pretty clear line between Western and Eastern ways of thinking.
How so?
It talks about the West often prioritizing, achievements out in the world, career success, material stuff.
Right, the external locus.
Exactly. While the East tends to focus more on cultivating strength and wisdom from within, inner strength.
That's a really crucial distinction to grasp, I think. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it offers you a different lens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A different way to experience life and intimacy.
Yeah.
Like the book puts it, the Westerner sees the world, while the Easterner feels the world.
Feels the world. I like that.
This emphasis on feeling, on intuition and sensory experience, rather than just, intellectual understanding, that's fundamental to Tantra.
And it's not just about what happens in the bedroom, right? The book makes it pretty clear traditional tantric teachings cover a much wider area.
Precisely. Yoga, various forms of meditation, specific breathing exercises, ancient philosophical texts.
Yeah.
The sexual aspect is really just one piece of a larger interconnected system.
A system aimed at what?
At achieving total well-being, basically.
Yeah.
Spiritual, physical, emotional, and sexual happiness. They're all seen as intertwined, not separate.
But let's be honest, many of us, probably including you listening, picked up a book on tantric sex because we're curious about,
The sex part, yeah.
Exactly. And that brings us to the shift towards what's known as neo-tantra. What's the main change in focus there?
The most significant shift is precisely that emphasis. While traditional Tantra saw sex as like one piece of the happiness puzzle, Neo-Tantra often puts sex right at the forefront. Concepts like male multiple orgasm and female ejaculation, which, weren't really central to traditional teachings,
Right.
they get considerably more attention in this sort of westernized adaptation.
I also noticed the book highlighting a difference in how orgasms are viewed.
Yes, definitely. Neo-Tantra often places a strong emphasis on the G-spot orgasm, whereas traditional Tantra more frequently talks about a more encompassing, like full-body experience of ecstatic release.
Okay.
And it's true that many modern enthusiasts are primarily drawn to the specific sexual techniques, maybe with less focus on the broader philosophical and spiritual context. That's a fair point the book makes.
So what's the core belief then that fuels this neo-tantric focus on pleasure? Why is it seen as so important?
Essentially, neo-tantrics believe that pleasure itself has an inherent spiritual value. It's not just a physical sensation, but it can actually be a legitimate path, a path of spiritual exploration and practice.
Hmm.
So the focus shifts towards deepening intimacy, achieving maybe more profound and fulfilling orgasms, and strengthening the emotional and physical connection within relationships.
So it's presented as a way to not only enhance your sex life, maybe, but also enrich your overall love life and perhaps even shift your general perspective on life and pleasure itself.
Exactly. It can offer a sense of greater fulfillment, maybe more depth in areas where some people might feel something's lacking, adding a richer dimension to their personal and intimate experiences.
Now, let's delve a bit into where these ideas came from originally. The book mentions the Siddhas. Who exactly were they?
The siddhas, right. It's a Sanskrit term, translates roughly to perfected masters. They were the earliest significant figures associated with tantric thought.
When was this?
Emerging in India around the 7th to 11th centuries, these were individuals believed to have attained extraordinary spiritual powers, sometimes even physical ones. This period is often called the Pan-Indian Tantric Yoga movement. And the Tamil Siddhas were a specific and quite influential religious group within that larger movement.
And how did Tantra make its way over to the West? The book mentions a tantric order in America.
Yes, the first formal tantric organization in the U.S. was that Tantric Order in America, founded in 1905 by a somewhat enigmatic figure named Pierre Arnold Bernard.
Enigmatic.
Yeah, he also used aliases like Peter Kuhn and Shastri. Bit mysterious.
Well, okay. And there were key individuals who really played a crucial role in shaping how Tantra was understood in the West, right?
Absolutely. So John Woodruff, he wrote under the name Arthur Avalon, was pivotal. He was the first Western scholar to seriously and, importantly, respectfully study and defend Tantra
Defend it as what?
as a legitimate ethical and philosophical system. His book, The Serpent Power, is still considered foundational today.
And then there's Charles Muir.
Right, Charles Muir, often called the grandfather of the modern Tantra movement in the United States. He developed the popular Tantra, the art of conscious loving approach, and the concept of sacred spot massage. He really brought Tantra into a more accessible kind of relationship-focused context for Westerners.
The book also makes a really interesting distinction between spirituality and religion, especially as they relate to Tantra. Can you clarify that for us?
Yeah, the way the book frames it is that spirituality is something that comes from within you. It's your personal inner guidance, the emotional connection you feel to your practices, maybe the essence of your soul's journey.
And religion.
Religion, on the other hand, is presented more as the external framework, the specific rituals, the codified theories, the organized practices. The book points out that religious practice can sometimes become just rote, just going through the motions without that inner spark.
But for others.
But for others, it serves as a very real and effective pathway to deeper spiritual connection. So it can be both, really.
Okay, so we're starting to get a good sense of the underlying philosophy and the history. Let's move to something really fundamental in Tantra. Connection. Why is building a connection with your partner considered so crucial here?
The book really emphasizes this. Establishing a deep connection is absolutely foundational, both for even starting to explore tantric practices and, ultimately, for achieving spiritual awakening.
So it's step one, basically.
You could say that. The very essence of tantric sex, according to Dempsey, is forging that profound bond, dissolving the barriers between partners and cultivating genuine intimacy on multiple levels.
It sounds like it goes way beyond just the physical act itself, then.
Precisely. It's about moving past superficial interactions to really see and understand your partner, overcoming fears, insecurities, becoming deeply attuned to your own body and your partner's body and soul, too.
That makes sense.
The book also touches on the fact that many people struggle to fully experience orgasm because of emotional or psychological blocks.
Right.
And creating that genuine, safe connection can be the key to unlocking that potential. How? By encouraging you to slow down, become more present, and truly appreciate each other.
Consciousness seems to be another big theme that keeps coming up in the book. How does Tantra generally view consciousness?
Well, Tantrics view human beings as miniature versions of the whole universe, microcosms, if you will.
Okay.
They believe that by accessing our inner spirit through practices like yoga, meditation, and what they call sacred love, we can tap into a deeper godly wisdom.
And realize our full potential.
Exactly. Essentially becoming more like those divine archetypes we talked about earlier, the gods and goddesses.
So it's about recognizing and activating a potential that's already inside us.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
The book suggests our desires aren't necessarily bad things. They're actually the fuel for greater awareness. And our senses, they're the doorways to a richer perception of reality.
Yeah.
By becoming fully present, truly awake and focused in each moment,
Yes.
we can tune into the fundamental energy, the vibration of life, and recognize our deep interconnectedness with everything around us.
And Shiva and Shakti come back into play here too, don't they, in this understanding of consciousness?
Absolutely. Tantra sees the universe itself as a manifestation of consciousness, embodying both those masculine and feminine principles.
So Shiva is.
Shiva represents the aspect of unchanging possibility, the pure, still potential from which everything can arise.
And Shakti.
Shakti is the dynamic, creative energy, the active force that brings that potential into being.
Right.
Tantra ultimately aims to help us move beyond the limiting dualities we often perceive, like masculine, feminine, good, bad, dark, light, through an awakened consciousness, transcending the ego to experience a state of pure bliss or non-duality.
The book also briefly mentions the subconscious and the superconscious mind. How do those fit into this picture?
Yeah, the subconscious is presented as kind of the realm of our automatic behaviors, our deeply ingrained instincts and intuitions. It's also like the mind's storage unit for past memories and experiences.
And the superconscious.
Some tantric traditions believe that by reaching a state of superconsciousness, we can unlock extraordinary abilities, tap into deeper wisdom, maybe even access memories from past lives. It's a more advanced concept.
Okay. So, to sum up this bit on consciousness, what are some key tantric teachings you think are most important for our listener to maybe take away?
Well, the book highlights several crucial ideas. First, that sex can be a powerful and direct pathway to experiencing profound bliss.
Okay, that's a big one.
Second, that each of us inherently contains what might seem like opposing qualities, the masculine and feminine within, for instance. And finally, that letting go of our rigid preconceptions, our fixed ideas, is essential for achieving spiritual awakening and a truly conscious state of being. It allows us to move beyond those perceived polarities.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit now and talk about the more physical aspects, specifically the stages of sexual response and orgasm from a tantric perspective. The book gives a brief overview of excitement and plateau stages. What does it emphasize about the orgasm stage itself?
An orgasm stage is described as, well, the most outwardly noticeable and intense phase, isn't it?
Yeah.
Characterized by rapid physical events, muscle contractions, maybe fluid release, accelerated breathing, plus that rush of internal chemicals, endorphins, and strong emotional responses.
It even gets specific, right? Like heart rate.
Yeah, it mentions details like the average heart rate during orgasm around 140 beats per minute compared to resting rates. And also, it's typically brief duration, maybe 3 to 8 seconds for many.
And are there some fundamental aspects of orgasm that are pretty universal regardless of gender?
Yes, the core physiological events include those involuntary muscle contractions throughout the body and a temporary spike in both heart rate and blood pressure. That's pretty standard.
The book also introduces the term caressa. What's that about?
Right, caressa. It refers to specific techniques aimed at consciously controlling the orgasmic response, usually through focused breathing and sometimes applying pressure.
So it's about control.
Essentially, yes. Though sometimes the term is used more broadly, kind of as a general term for a type of tantric sacred sex that focuses on sustained connection, not necessarily aiming for that immediate release or climax. It was coined by Alice Bunker Stockham, the book notes.
What about concepts like multiple orgasms and dry orgasms?
Well, while often more readily experienced by women, the book points out men are also capable of having multiple orgasms, though usually ejaculation only happens once.
Okay.
Dry orgasms, or orgasms without ejaculation, are presented as a specific tantric technique. The aim is to experience the pleasurable release of orgasm without the physical act of ejaculation itself.
It sounds like Tantra also has a pretty unique perspective on the idea of prolonging orgasm.
Indeed. Rather than seeing the inability to quickly reach orgasm as like a negative thing or something to avoid, Tantra suggests that intentionally prolonging the experience, drawing it out, can actually lead to greater pleasure and a more sustained state of heightened sensation. It's a different goal.
And when we talk about male and female orgasms specifically, what are some key distinctions or points the book raises?
For men, orgasm is often closely linked with ejaculation, as you'd expect. Typically triggered by penile stimulation, though some men can also orgasm via prostate stimulation, like through anal play.
And for women?
For women, the book highlights a greater diversity of orgasmic experiences. It mentions vaginal, G-spot, and clitoral orgasms.
Right.
It also notes that with extended periods of arousal, women might be more likely to experience non-clitoral orgasms. And interestingly, it even acknowledges that finding the G-spot can be tricky for many women. It's not always straightforward.
This is all really insightful, but how can our listener actually start to explore these ideas in their own life? The book offers some practical first steps, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. The very first crucial step, it stresses, is to do your own research. Learn more about Tantra before just jumping into practices.
Makes sense.
The book also mentions that many Tantra events or workshops often pair up individuals who attend solo, which can be a great learning opportunity, but also something to be aware of beforehand if you're not comfortable with that kind of interaction. Check the format, basically.
And it sounds like exploring Tantra might even shift how you approach dating and relationships in general.
Absolutely. Engaging with tantric principles can help you reevaluate what qualities you truly value in a partner. Maybe appreciate aspects you might have previously overlooked. It's even described in the book as a kind of romance refresher course, which makes sense given that most of us don't really get any formal education in intimacy and conscious connection, do we?
No, definitely not. The book also addresses the common reality of differing libido levels within a relationship. What's the key message there?
It's completely normal, it says, and quite common for partners to experience different levels of sexual desire at different times, or just generally.
So what's crucial?
The crucial thing is to accept and acknowledge these differences without judgment. And importantly, to distinguish between a general difference in libido versus a situation where one person's desire specifically for their partner has diminished. That's different.
Right.
Open communication and understanding are absolutely key.
Okay. Now let's dive into some of the practical techniques mentioned. The book puts a strong emphasis on the mind-body connection through breath and movement. Why is conscious breathing considered so important in Tantra?
Well, the book explains that taking deep, slow, conscious breaths has profound benefits for both our physical and mental well-being, far outweighing the effects of the shallow, rapid breathing we often do without thinking.
And pranayama.
Right, pranayama. That's the yogic art and science of breath control. It's emphasized as a powerful tool for uniting the body, mind, and consciousness.
What's the goal?
Ultimately aiming to cultivate calmness, enhance focus, increase vitality, and maybe even promote longevity. It's foundational.
And are there specific yoga postures or movements that are particularly good for couples exploring Tantra?
Yes, the book gives several examples of yoga asanas postures that can be practiced together.
Like what?
Things like the triangle for stretching, the cobra for opening the chest, happy hug for breathing in unison, tree together for balance and support, and the tantric twist for spinal flexibility.
Okay.
It also points out more generally that engaging in any form of exercise together can be a wonderful way for couples to connect, physically and emotionally. Chapter 18 apparently goes into more detail.
Meditation is also discussed. What's the general approach to meditation within this tradition? Is it just sitting still and chanting Om?
Not necessarily. It's important to understand that tantric meditation isn't always about achieving a completely silent mind or rigidly chanting Om, though that can be part of it.
So what is it then?
The book explains that many different activities can become meditative, simply by consciously welcoming thoughts as they arise and then gently letting them pass without getting attached or judging them.
So the goal isn't to fight thoughts.
Exactly. The primary goal is relaxation and presence. Rather than struggling to suppress thoughts or getting fixated on negative ones, it's more about acceptance.
The book also introduces the principles of Ayurveda. How does this ancient system of holistic health connect with Tantric teachings?
Ayurveda teaches the importance of listening to natural rhythms, both in the external world and within our own bodies, applying nature's wisdom to our well-being.
How does it define health?
It defines true health as a state of perfect equilibrium among the three doshas which represent mind, body, and soul, not just the absence of disease.
Doshas.
Yeah, they're seen as unique combinations of fundamental energies that shape our individual personalities, tendencies, health risks, almost like a unique energetic code.
An imbalance.
Imbalances in these doshas, often caused by things like stress, seasonal changes, diet, emotions. They can affect individuals differently. The book also briefly mentions panchakarma, intensive Ayurvedic cleansing practices like specific diets, massages, even vomiting or enemas sometimes, designed to rebalance the mind, body, spirit, and eliminate toxins. Pretty intense stuff.
Okay. Creating a sensual space is another key element emphasized. Why is our physical environment considered so important in Tantra?
The book really stresses that our immediate surroundings have a significant impact on our overall well-being, our mood, our attitude.
Right.
A happy, soothing environment can uplift our spirits. And this is particularly crucial when creating a sacred space specifically for sensuality and intimacy.
A sanctuary.
Exactly. A calm sanctuary where you can retreat, connect deeply with your partner, free from the stresses and distractions of the outside world. A safe haven.
So what are some practical steps our listener can take to create this kind of environment?
Well, the first fundamental step, it says, is a thorough cleaning and decluttering. Get rid of the mess.
Good advice generally.
Definitely. After that, it's essential to personalize this space, based on both your own and your partner's preferences. Maybe incorporating specific themes, colors, textures that resonate with you both.
What else?
Creating a comfortable love nest that extends beyond just the bed. Think blankets, pillows. Using soft, muted, flattering lighting is key for relaxation. And incorporating soothing music or natural sounds. Avoid total silence. Maybe use white noise if needed.
It mentions Feng Shui and Vastu, too.
Yeah, briefly. Just noting they're ancient systems, Chinese and Indian respectively, for harmonizing living spaces, sharing similar principles like avoiding clutter and being mindful of placement, like where the bed is.
And there was some expert advice from Al Link on this.
Yes, Alink emphasizes that the key is having a clear intention. The intention to create a truly spiritual and sacred experience.
And how does that manifest?
Through specific actions, like adjusting the lighting, maybe using candles or wet bulbs for a certain mood, ensuring the lighting is flattering, having massage oils and any desired toys readily accessible. He also mentions rituals, like the Four Directions ceremony, as a way to further sanctify the space and invite positive energy, using smoke, herbs, incense, or just candles in the corners.
Let's move on to the art of tantric massage then. What's its purpose in Tantra beyond just, relaxation?
Well, relaxation is definitely a welcome benefit. Yeah, the primary purpose of tantric massage is deeper. It's about increasing intimacy and arousal,
Okay.
guiding sexual energy upwards through the body towards what are considered higher spiritual centers, awakening passion and sensory awareness, and ultimately strengthening the energetic and emotional bond between partners.
What are some key principles to keep in mind when giving a tantric massage?
The book highlights planning it as a special, dedicated event, not rushed, ensuring you give equal attention to both sides of the body for balance, and taking your time really appreciating and exploring all areas.
So the massage itself is the goal.
It should be considered a satisfying experience in itself, yeah? Not just a prelude to sex. It also encourages incorporating different kinds of touch, hair, breasts, everything.
And the book details specific techniques like lingam and yoni massage. Can you give us a quick overview?
Yes. Lingam massage focuses on the man's perineum, often called the sacred spot, using gentle pressure. This is believed to help with orgasm and ejaculation control, sometimes massaging the lingam with one hand, the sacred spot with the other.
And yoni massage?
Yoni massage involves a high degree of gentleness and respect, starting with caressing the whole body before focusing on the yoni itself, using oil on the outer lips, pelvis, slow massage, guiding the breath, gentle squeezing, circular strokes on the clitoris, maybe not aiming for orgasm initially, gentle insertion of a finger, varying speed and pressure. Using the other hand for external massage, like the thumb on the clitoris, it can potentially lead to profound physical and emotional sensations. Maintaining eye contact and coaching the breaths are important.
Practical considerations, like oil.
Yeah, protect your upholstery. Explore different natural scents. Be mindful of preferences. It even mentions a study about arousing scents, lavender and pumpkin pie for men, licorice and cucumber for both.
Okay. Any don'ts with oils?
Don't use oil-based ones internally. Stick to water-based lubes for penetration. Avoid the eyes. Maybe explore homemade recipes too.
Foreplay is something that can often feel rushed, maybe like an obligation sometimes. What's the tantric perspective on its significance?
Tantra views foreplay very differently, not merely as a warm-up act before intercourse,
but as
an ongoing state of affection, sensuality, and presence. It can actually be even more significant than the act of intercourse itself.
Really?
Yeah, experts like Al Link and Paula Copeland, mentioned in the book, emphasize being completely present in each touch, surrendering the need for a specific outcome, valuing each sensation as an end in itself.
And this
often leads to more fulfilling orgasms and just a different perspective on the whole intimate experience. Less goal-oriented, maybe.
The book really dives into various forms of foreplay, doesn't it? What are some examples that stood out?
Oh yeah, it covers a lot. Everything from deep, soulful kissing, which it calls a special activity in itself, to oral sex, fellatio, playing the flute, and cunnilingus, polishing the pearl. It addresses potential hesitations around that too,
Like what?
like misinformation or fears about being gross. It offers reassurance and tips, like being careful with teeth during fellatio, or expressing appreciation for a partner's natural taste and smell during cunnilingus.
What else?
Manual stimulation, obviously, paying attention to feedback, even other sensual activities like sharing indulgent meals, aphrodisiacs, playing footsies, dancing together, watching sexy movies while holding hands. Drive-ins even get a mention.
Huh. Foreplay talk.
Yeah, whispered sweet nothings, previews of what's to come, sharing fantasies, but emphasizing trust and ground rules are crucial there. Simple romantic gestures count too, like notes or calls.
And for singles.
It mentions practicing self-pleasure and exploration as foreplay for singles, and crucially, connecting foreplay with safe sex practices.
Any key don'ts mentioned?
Yeah, don't treat it as just an opening act, don't keep score. It should flow naturally and flexibly.
Okay, let's move on to sexual positions. The book starts by referencing the Kama Sutra. Why is this ancient text still relevant here?
The Kama Sutra by Mullanaga Vatsyayana is seen as this comprehensive ancient Hindu guide, not just about sex, but improving relationships, sexuality, overall character.
So it's broader than just positions.
Much broader. Although the book speculates maybe why it doesn't have tons of specific tantric details, perhaps selective sharing or oral traditions, but it's still foundational for sensual arts. Kama Sutra roughly means sensual book, covering sex, positions, dating, kissing, aphrodisiacs, orgasms, even techniques like scratching or biting.
What are a couple of the popular Kama Sutra positions highlighted?
It discusses the classic missionary position, noting the face-to-face intimacy, potential for feeling shielded for women, man doing most work. Origin of the name is apparently unclear.
And
Woman on top cowgirl, or reverse cowgirl, allowing the woman control over depth and pace. There's a variation mentioned too, the swan sport, with more rapid hip thrusts.
are there particular sitting positions favored in tantric practice?
Yes. Yab Yum is the most common one-sided. It's that intimate, face-to-face sitting embrace, believed to align chakras, promote energy flow. Similar to the Kama Sutra's embrace of milk and water, connecting to yin-yang concepts. Any variations? Modified versions for smaller spaces, or sitting facing the same direction woman and man's lap, back to him. These are generally less strenuous, good for delaying orgasm too.
The book also mentions some more esoteric positions beyond the Kama Sutra.
Yeah, things that came from more creative exploration, it seems, like the Amazon position woman squats on the man's knees up. Or variations involving oral sex, like woman on top cunnilingus, or man kneeling cunnilingus, rear-facing woman on top during oral.
Okay, getting creative, anal sex positions.
Right, briefly mentioned, yeah, emphasizing it's not for everyone and requires ample lubrication and great care.
What about different environments?
The excitement of novelty is highlighted, but also cautions about privacy issues outdoors or in public. Maybe try a pool or hot tub at night. Use blankets outdoors. Watch out for poison ivy or wildlife.
Sex on the road.
It's a nod, maybe tapping into teenage nostalgia. But serious warnings about distractions while driving and risks of getting caught in public places.
Using visuals. Positions for conceiving. Pregnancy.
Yeah, suggest books or videos can help explore positions. Missionary often recommended for conception due to deeper penetration, plus elevating hips. Mentions old wives' tales. And crucial advice for pregnancy. Consult your doctor. Avoid deep thrusting or man's weight on belly, especially later on.
Rituals seem really significant in Tantra. Are they unique to this practice?
No, not at all. The book points out rituals are fundamental to almost every human society. Even modern Western ones, though we might not label them as such.
Like what?
Valentine's Day dinners, anniversary celebrations, setting a special scene for first-time sex. Those are all modern rituals around intimacy and connection. Ancient cultures often disguise sex rituals in folklore, too.
The book mentions the Da Vinci Code effect. What's that about?
Right. Dan Brown's novel brought sex rituals into the mainstream discussion. But the book notes the controversy and lack of proof regarding the novel's portrayal of ritualized sex in early Christianity, contrasting it with traditions like Taoism and Tantra, where it's more established.
So what basically defines a ritual? And why are they important in Tantra and elsewhere?
At its core, a ritual is a specific process or rite, done with a particular intention or goal. Usually involves routine or repetitive acts, follows the sequence, and carries deeper symbolic meaning, spiritual or psychological.
And their importance.
They honor tradition, create a sense of specialness, foster mindfulness and presence, mark a transition from everyday to sacred, enhance connection, and provide an outlet for emotional expression. Very powerful.
What are some examples of ancient tantric rituals the book describes?
It mentions things like the ritual of worshiping the goddess, where a man reveres a woman with offerings, mantras, meditation, often reversing typical roles.
Yeah.
Lovemaking itself could be part of the ritual, with specific positioning. It even touches on ancient rituals involving menstrual fluid, which was sometimes seen as mystical, and group rituals involving wine, cannabis, and various tantric techniques.
What about modern adaptations?
Highlights couples creating personal rituals, lighting candles, sharing intentions before intimacy, making it meaningful for them.
Another concept that comes up a lot with Tantra is chakras. What exactly are they?
Chakras are fundamental to tantric philosophy. They're described as intricate energy centers within the body, believed to represent vital life energy, power sources for our physical, emotional, spiritual systems.
Where are they located?
Often visualized as symbolic spiritual fields along the spine, said to correspond with the endocrine and nervous systems.
And how can understanding or working with them be beneficial?
Studying chakras is believed to foster a deeper mind-body connection, leading to positive life changes. Pain or illness might be seen as rooted in an imbalance in the corresponding chakra.
So you can diagnose them.
Kind of. Learning to evaluate or diagnose chakra states can help identify energy lags or blockages, so you can take steps to fix them. The book mentions using mudras, sacred hand movements, while chanting and meditating as ways to open and harmonize the chakras.
Tantra seems to really emphasize the potential for personal growth and change. What does the book say about embracing personal transformation through these teachings?
It strongly encourages a conscious, positive process of transformation, actively seeking new perspectives, cultivating inner peace and harmony, developing a greater appreciation for the universe.
No.
Spending time connecting with nature, consciously relaxing self-imposed boundaries, being open to exploring new things in relationships, in the world, actively resisting negative feelings like guilt, fear, embarrassment that hold us back.
Letting go of old ideas?
Exactly. Abandoning old notions that might taint sacred acts like sexual unions, expanding your visions and goals, embracing vulnerability for deeper connections and honest communication.
So it's about permission.
Granting yourself permission to be completely open and receptive to Tantra and to your partner. That's seen as leading to greater freedom and peace.
Now let's consider relationships and monogamy within Tantra. The book touches on different historical and cultural views.
Yes, the understanding and practice of monogamy have really varied. Religious doctrines, the importance of a male heir, even tolerance for discrete affairs have all shaped views differently across time and cultures.
And modern Western views.
While committed relationships with exclusive sexual activity are often the norm, the book also briefly mentions responsible non-monogamy, while, importantly, acknowledging the associated health risks.
What are the core underlying issues around fidelity and choosing monogamy?
At the heart of it are trust and vulnerability. Building that trust takes time and effort, especially after past hurt.
Right.
Committing to sexual exclusivity often requires deep emotional and sexual openness, which can feel scary. The desire for monogamy often stems from valuing that hard-earned trust and the safety vulnerability can bring within that committed space.
So betrayal is
Devastating. It breaks that trust, the very foundation of the relationship.
The book also clarifies terminology around safe sex. What's the distinction?
It clarifies that safer sex is generally more accurate. The only truly safe activities, in terms of STI transmission, are abstinence and mutual masturbation without fluid sharing.
What about condoms?
Stresses proper use. Water-based lubricants only, correct application, reservoir tip, using them on sex toys too. It even suggests creating a safe sex treasure chest to make it more engaging, less clinical.
How does the book suggest keeping monogamy exciting? Preventing ruts?
The key is actively combating routine, consciously introducing novelty and variety, exploring new positions, different environments for lovemaking, maybe even role-playing, though it advises caution about pretending to be people you both know.
So you can reignite passion within monogamy.
That's the message. You don't necessarily need to look outside the relationship.
What about monogamy versus polyamory, specifically within Tantra? Is there one view?
The book tackles a common misconception that Tantra inherently involves group sex or orgies. Right.
While that might be an individual choice for some, the core of many tantric teachings focuses on deepening the bond between two individuals. that union of forces, yin-yang balance within a committed partnership.
But polyamory does exist in Tantra.
Yes, within a smaller segment of the community. Some practitioners engage in sexual relations with multiple partners, sometimes viewing monogamy as unnatural. The book mentions various approaches: threesomes, foursomes, separate partners, group relationships, sharing of love retreats.
Sex toys are becoming more mainstream. What's the book's perspective on using them in a tantric context?
It acknowledges some people might hesitate due to perceptions, body image issues, fear of the unknown,
But
but it normalizes their use, citing stats from a direct study. It emphasizes open communication between partners is crucial if you're thinking of introducing them, suggests a gradual approach.
any tips for introducing them? Yeah. Demonstrate the toy, research options together, start small, maybe avoid super explicit visuals initially, allow private exploration time, address insecurities by focusing on the shared pleasure they can bring. Then it gives a brief overview of types. Vibrators, dildos, enhancing creams, start small, penis rings, pumps, simulators, fake vaginas, consider partners' feelings, anal toys like butt plugs and beads.
The book also explores food, drink, and sensual materials. What connections does it draw?
Cautions against relying on alcohol for sex, and never with an incapacitated partner, critical point. Then explores food's romantic potential. How you eat is key. Romantic staples. Using a partner's body as a playful buffet table. Food as a sex toy, with cream. Makeshift edible dildos with caution and cleanliness. Ice cubes for oral sex sensations. Books and videos. Discusses them as learning tools. Notes, many people seek to improve their sex life via written word. Modern books are visually appealing. Videos can demonstrate techniques, increasing numbers, focus on Tantra with nice scenery and music, highlighting key aspects.
What about adult films?
Normalizes consuming them for adding excitement, citing stats. Suggests watching alone first might ease self-consciousness. Maybe consider amateur tapes for more realistic bodies. The key takeaway is using materials as educational tools or inspiration, but never letting them distract from your real partner.
Enhancing intimacy through shared activities beyond the bedroom is another area. Examples.
Emphasizes shared experiences are vital for connection. Exercising together has highlighted benefits for physical emotional health, increased energy libido, feeling sexier. Suggests choosing programs suiting both partners, activities you both enjoy.
Any tantric perspective on exercise?
Touches on channeling sexual energy through exercise and Kegels for heightened consciousness. Kegel exercises, PC muscle strengthening, are mentioned for enhancing sensations for both men's control, women's grip, advanced variations like pulsing, fluttering. Even mentions pompoir, ancient art of milking the penis with PC muscles, called effective exercise, tones muscles, improves flexibility, increases comfort with body movement, enhances rhythm control benefits in the bedroom. People feel sexier dancing. Positive attention boosts confidence. Slow dancing is romantic foreplay, syncing rhythms. Erotic dance, belly dance, striptease as surprise foreplay.
The book dedicates sections to women from a goddess perspective and men from a god perspective. Key ideas for the goddess perspective.
Tantra elevates women as goddesses, center of the universe, embodying Shakti. All women seen as divine from birth, embodying positive femininity, regardless of statusage. Teachings forbid disrespect armed to women, mentions historical worship of female deities.
How should women embrace this?
Encourages treating oneself as a goddess, self-indulgence is deserved, ignore feelings of selfishness. Setting the stage. Creating a special romantic area, a personal altar, mementos, romantic touches, music, flowers, candles. The art of dressing where what makes you feel sexy, luxurious, no standard uniform. Mentions historical goddess worship in West Bengal, full image. Hair, jewels, makeup.
Roadblocks to orgasm?
Addresses physical, emotional, mental obstacles. Importance of opening up to satisfaction, avoiding mental distractions, body image worries, to-do lists. Not solely relying on partner for orgasm partner assists, but woman must allow it.
Enhancing her pleasure for men.
Aim for mutual satisfaction, not a chore but a privilege. Enthusiastic responses are key. Address low sex drive. Supportive partnership, reduce stress, consult doctor, hormones meds, slow foreplay without intercourse pressure.
And key ideas about men from the god perspective.
Men also viewed as godlike, revered for strength power, expected to be leaders providers. But masculinity should include a softer side, vulnerability, sensitivity, yin-yang again. Gods, goddesses have specific, equally important roles, needing perfect union for harmony bliss.
What about ejaculation control?
Traditional tantric men often focused on controlling, avoiding ejaculation. Elaborate techniques mentioned. Contrasts with Taoism's strong emphasis on non-ejaculatory sex. Interestingly, ancient Tantra instructed women to have frequent, multiple orgasms and ejaculate, believed to energize partner. Lists some ancient tantric sex techniques, boar's blow, sparrow sport.
Common male issues.
Addresses premature ejaculation, common, 25–40%, definition varies, and erectile dysfunction, risk factors, age, medical conditions, lifestyle, meds, psychological causes, depression, anxiety, stress.
Enhancing his pleasure for women.
Show enthusiasm, loud and clear. It's a huge turn-on and ego boost. Consider sexual aid toys, penis rings, and surprises.
For our listener wanting to explore Tantra further, what guidance does the book offer on learning more?
Suggests considering group versus one-on-one instruction, personal preference. Women might feel more comfortable initially in women-only workshops. Singles are welcome to focus on personal growth first.
What if only one partner is interested?
The interested partner sharing can often spark curiosity in the other, but potential for resentment if strongly opposed. Practical tips for workshops. Ask about clothing, bring notebook, camera if allowed. Key takeaway. Don't be afraid to state preferences with instructors.
Who does Tantra appeal to?
Different demographics. College-aged, independence, female power, consciousness themes, young parents, recapture romance, stress relief via meditation yoga, baby boomers, focus on own needs relationships, embraces all lifestyle options.
Body image issues, limitations, other issues.
Stresses beauty-worthiness of all bodies, no cookie-cutter ideal. Supports people with physical limitations. Focus on spiritual, sensual, beyond intercourse, adaptable positions. Focus on spiritual strength, mind-body connection can aid psychological, emotional well-being. Potential for sexual healing, overcoming trauma inhibitions, fostering positive view of sex.
And the book includes resources for digging deeper.
Yes, a comprehensive glossary. Shiva, Shakti, Lingam, Yoni, Kundalini, Karesa, Yab-Yum, etc. A valuable resources section. Websites like tantra-sex.com, margottandan.com. Authors like Al Link, Pella Copeland, Margot and Ann, plus an index for navigation and lists other Everything series books for context.
This has been an incredibly illuminating deep dive into the Everything Tantric Sex book. Just to recap, we've explored the fundamental principles of Tantra, the evolution into Neo-Tantra with its focus on sexual intimacy, practical techniques for fostering deeper connection, creating sensual environments, and how these teachings offer a really unique, maybe transformative perspective on relationships and our own well-being.
What's truly captivating, I think, is how Tantra, in both its traditional wisdom and modern forms, encourages this deeply mindful, conscious approach to intimacy, prioritizing genuine connection, embracing pleasure as a pathway, and fostering a more profound understanding of ourselves and our partners on multiple levels.
So here's a thought for you to consider, our listener. Think about how incorporating just one small aspect of this tantric philosophy into your life, maybe a greater focus on being fully present during intimate moments, or maybe a more intentional effort to create a shared sensual environment. How could that potentially shift your own experience of connection and pleasure? What new discoveries might await if you began to truly feel the world with your partner rather than just, seeing it?
This exploration has really only scratched the surface, hasn't it? It's such a rich and multifaceted tradition. We'd strongly encourage you to delve into the resources mentioned in the book. Continue your own personal journey into the world of Tantra.
Definitely.
What aspects resonated most deeply with you? What questions are still lingering? This is truly just the beginning, perhaps, of a fascinating and potentially life-enhancing exploration.